struggling with the limitations of thought, has made incredible progress, certainly in the past year alone, in with regards to equality. I think it's everybody's responsibility, gay and straight, to stand up for human rights. And I think people in America, gay and straight, have a responsibility and an opportunity to voice their opposition to this kind of unfathomable oppression that I've been to Russia. I mean, had I known the depths and the degree, you know, I mean, I was in Russia not that long ago, actually, which is horrifying to me, you know? Yeah, so I don't know, I mean, I think it's a very, the rest of the world needs to serve as a beacon for that place, which is, in its nature, I think, such a monolithic, concrete kind of place, you know? I don't know how else to say it. Having been there, I just feel like it's really like, you can feel the hardness of the thinking there. And I think that it's the responsibility of the rest of the world that is, in so many ways, look at so many other places on the planet right now. In Europe, all through Europe, and New Zealand, and all through America, the states that are just opening themselves up to this inevitable wave of equality. I just, you know, it's just, we have to stay vigilant. And again, for me, visibility is key, you know, people who are willing to stand up. Wentworth Miller, who just stood up the other day to say, like, I will not abide this, I can't stand by anymore. Like, that's what it takes, you know. So props to him and props to people like him, and props to people in this room that are willing to stand up to that, because it's not cool. It's the opposite of cool. Someone's waving their hat at that.
A bit of an active question for you. I love you on 24. How easy or hard was it for the hourly, from a character point of view, to get worse and worse?
You know what's hard for me to do on 24? Keep my mouth closed. Really, the DP always used to be like, close your mouth. Because I used to stand like this, like. And then I would stand like this. 24 was a real learning curve for me. That was the first time I was ever on a show for a whole season, and it was challenging in that regard. Also because it was a pretty peripheral character, so I don't really feel like, you know, his arc was very important to the season. What'd you say? I know, I always say I went home from work and never came back again. But yeah, you know, it was a good beginning to my understanding what it means to be on a show and have to sort of create a character week after week, yeah. You have a sword in your hand.
You mentioned doing smaller projects. If you could adapt a play to TV or a film, which one would you adapt?
I don't know. I really don't know. Again, it's like a weird thing. Like, I look at material all the time. I read stuff all the time. There's a couple of new plays, actually, that wouldn't mean anything to you if I talked about them, that I've read that I feel like could be really interesting films. And in a couple of cases, I'm working on talking about them with the playwrights. But, you know, nothing classic that I can think of that comes to mind, although, you know, I love the idea of Shakespeare adaptations in the film. You know, I would love to do some classical Shakespeare stuff, or, you know, I like Vanya on 42nd Street, this movie that is based on Uncle Vanya, a Chekhov play. You know, that kind of stuff is interesting to me. So maybe something like that will come down the pike. Who knows? Where? Who's saying here? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so there's a lot of catchphrase fashion, and you and Chris Simon are introducing that information like wordplay. You guys crazy.
As opposed to cosplay.
So I was wondering if you have any like catchphrase or like any kind of word that you want to use.
Nightmare.
Nightmare?
Yeah. I'm constantly like, that is a total nightmare.
This is a nightmare.
No, this is not a nightmare. I'm not using it to describe this experience, but like, if I like get really frustrated like in the morning, I always know what kind of day it's going to be when I walk my dogs. Because if I'm like in the city and I'm walking my dogs and like, you know, you have to clean up after them, or like, one day. really tell this story, but one day I was walking my dog, Noah, and he made a poop. And I was like talking to my friend and getting the bag out to clean it up. And like my friend was here and the dog is here and the poop is here. And so I'm like, yeah, anyway, I don't know. And I'm like getting the bag out and I gotta open the bag to put it, to put it in the thing. And then I turn around and this woman is walking down the sidewalk listening to her headphones and not paying attention to anything. And she's like this. And she steps right in the mess. And she's wearing sandals. It was the worst. It was a nightmare. Probably more of a nightmare for her, but also a nightmare for me. Anyway, that day was so I went home and I was like, that was a nightmare. It's a terrible story. I'm getting a watch, which means we're done. I have time for 2 more questions. Oh, it's like a lottery situation. Okay, you seem like you're not trying too hard, which I like. You have to stand up so everyone can hear you. Oh, well then, okay, sorry. Awkward for who? Oh. What's my feeling of why? The fact that people do that?